welcome to Barco Image Processing webinar. Today, we are going to show you the Encore3 working live. Yes, it's ready to ship, it's working live, and you will see it in a demonstration later today. My name is Harry Patel, and I am the product manager of Encore3. Joining me today is
Vincent Ayala. I'm a product specialist here at Barco Inc., and I'm super excited to give you a demonstration on a working unit of Encore3 today.
Yes, Encore3 is working live. We will show that to you live today. But before we get to it, we will go through a review of the product features, specifications, and yes, we do have a few more things new that we want to show you and tell you more about it. That's going to be available in the very first release. And of course, after that, Vincent is going to take us through a live demo of the system, of how a single box is so powerful and how it's useful for your needs, and again, demonstrate the capability of linking and how easy it is to use. And after that, it will come back to me to show you where we are heading next and how Encore3 is the most valuable investment for your arsenal. So without any delay, let's get started. At Barco, we are designing products that help you succeed. Designing products with leading technology that's available to us. They're designed to solve problems, ultimately to bring you peace of mind. And yes, they are consistently supported around the world with our team of experts. At Barco, we have the Barco Image Processing portfolio, and within this portfolio, you have the PDS 4K. That's an entry-level box that is designed with the same DNA as the Event Master platform. This box has two 4K60 outputs. It has HDMI, SDI, DisplayPort inputs as well. And so now you can do any very small event that you want to do with the PDS 4K. But when you need to go larger for your screen needs, and that's where you demand the Event Master to help, right? So Barco E2, the world-renowned E2, is the second generation Event Master platform, HD native, ready for 4K, while Encore3, the flagship, is 4K native, ready for 8K. We also have scaling, converting, format conversions, and so on, supported by our Image Pro 4K. It's not only for one channel, but multi-channel, and it has been to rescue for many shows that has happened over the years, and is known as the Swiss Army knife for any video conversion format, scaling, dicing, slicing of the video, and so on. At Barco, we are also looking at AV over IP, and IPMX is the protocol as the standard that we have adopted. And the very first product that we are introducing utilizing IPMX is the IO Gateway series. We'll talk more about that as well, but that's also part of our portfolio. Now, Encore3 is the most versatile screen management system in the world, and you may wonder why. Well, Encore3 is the third generation platform of the Event Master lineup. The very first generation platform was built in 2004. E2, which is the second generation platform, built in 2014. And then now we are here with Encore3. Encore3 is built with the latest available technology to us. It has so much more power that all the needed resources are pre-assigned. All the inputs, layers, outputs are all 4K native, whether you use it or not. You do not have to worry about capacities or assignment of the layers, or whether it's a single or a mix or pre-configuration that was needed with E2. Now, keep in mind, E2, when it was designed in 2014, it was designed with the available tech that we had at that time. And so to get the most out of it, we had to put in so many manual controls. With the latest tech, so much power is there, and now we're able to remove all the manual controls that were there and give the users flexibility with the needed resources pre-assigned, making the setup time so much more faster. The user interface that controls the box is built with the latest platform within the GUI world, allowing us to offer a very powerful, but also it's built on well-known familiar workflows of the Event Master, now intuitive way. It's again a very much of a improvement to user interface that will allow us to offer a stronger user experience at the end, making the product better, faster, stronger. Encore3 is designed for every screen in every event. It is designed to maximize your investment, and again, it's built with state-of-the-art technology and 20 years of R&D experience. It's not only easy to use, but it's also easy to spec and install. Well, let's take a look at what cards are compatible with Encore3. So the Gen 2 cards that you have already invested in are now compatible with Encore3. These cards now support 4K60 in, 4K60 out on the outputs. Every single connector is, again, 4K60 native. The controllers, the EC30, the 50, and the 210 that you already have are now compatible with Encore3. The 30 and the 50 is going to be supported in the first release, while the 210 is going to be supported in a release shortly, still within this year. At the end, Encore3 is designed to maximize your investments if you are already invested with us, but if you are not, you can start small and grow as you need with build to order. Build to order allows you to order the specific type of configuration, specific types of cards that you want in a system. Start small, grow big, or when you need it, cross-rent from other Event Master users and owners. Encore3 a box is so much more powerful. Let's take a look how it's powerful and what kind of inputs, outputs, and layers it has. So previously, we had talked about Encore3 having a megapixel-based canvas. And again, same as E2, right? It was megapixel-based canvas. Well, we are saying that Encore3 actually does not bind to any megapixel-based canvas. It's boundless. Let's see what it means. So let's say if you have a screen that is 3 4K60 wide, well, typically a canvas calculation would be X times Y. That's your megapixel in total. So here, 3 4K wide, and you can do the math. But what if there's gaps between your outputs? At that point, a megapixel-based system still needs to calculate all of the dead space that's not utilized, while Encore3 doesn't care. Encore3 is output-driven system. It doesn't matter how much space is between the outputs. The 8 4K60 outputs per box are available with boundless canvas. You can have as much space in between as you like. You can bring in a background of a size that you want to have, put a pip over it, and then fly that pip across the entire screen. Use it as you like it. So a creative canvas that truly expands beyond the boundaries. Let's talk about layers. A single Encore3 has 8 4K60 outputs, each with pre-assigned layers. So again, as you see in the illustration here, we have 8 individual outputs. Each of them has pre-assigned resources of a live mixing background. A live mixing background, that's again an unscaled layer that's repositionable. You can bring any source to that background. On top, you have 4 4K60 mix layers. These layers can be split into single layers to have up to 8 4K60 pips on every single output of this system. Of course, all of these layers are pre-assigned and available to use for individual screens. You can also choose to combine them, merge them together for a larger screen. And when you do that, you still have the same number of resources. You have a live repositionable mixing background and 4 4K60 mix layers. These layers can go anywhere on the screen, and that's why we call them the screen layers. You can also split them to be, again, single layers, allowing you to have up to 8 4K60 pips on a program out, for example. What if you need more layers? Well, that's where the 2 new things that we have added. We have added something called an output layer. In an output layer, you can unmerge these layers to have now a region-bounded and output-bounded layer. So each outputs that you see here now has 4 4K60 mixed layers. Again, that could be split into singles as well, giving you a possibility of having up to 64 4K60 pips on a large screen. Too many layers, nobody needs them. But point is that you have the possibility of that many layers. If you need to now have further mobility of these layers, you can combine these outputs to have a larger region. And again, this region can be changed per layer. It does not have to be a stack of layers, but it could be changed per layer. So you have so much more possibility. And any changes that you want to do from output layer to screen layer to single layer to mixed layer, you don't have to worry about it. Program a preset with all the layers that you need, save it, go to the next look, save that next preset, and then as you recall these presets, if there is a conflict between resources, our conflict resolution will come to help and ensure your program is protected from any undesirable behavior. So let's take a look. For example, let's say I can have a preset that's saved as individual single layers that you see here within the output, or I can have a combination of screen layers and output layers, or screen single layers and output layers, and so on. And all these different looks can change from preset to preset. Quite flexible. So that's just one of the ways we have added more flexibility to the layers. Another way to have more layers is by stacking. So again, those same outputs, the first two are now configured as a widescreen of 2 outputs, so 2 4K 60 wide. The rest of them are still as individual 4K 60 outputs. Let's say on output number 7, you want to double the number of layers there. Well, you give up an output and give it to another one, and now it doubles it. So that's 2 times stacking, but that's not only 2 times stacking. Now you can go up to 4 times stacking, giving you the possibility of having up to 32 4K 60 single pip on an output. Quite a lot, many layers. Again, nobody needs them, but if you do, we have it. Of course, when you want to double the number of layers of a multi-output screen, you have to give up the same number of outputs, and now it doubles it. Any dead connectors that you may have on the back of the unit can now be utilized for multi-viewers or AUXes. In short, there's so much processing power available in a single box that you don't have to worry about processing anymore. As long as you can get the source in, get it out to a screen, the box has enough processing inside that you don't have to worry about it. Once again, to review, every single input, every single output, every single layer in this system is 4K 60 native, whether you use it or not. And of course, all this processing happens with our core DNA of 12-bit 444 at the lowest latency and the highest quality scaling with our Athena pixel perfect scalers. Let's take a look at the back of the unit and see what connections we have. Well, we have the redundant power supplies that are the same as E2, by the way. We have the Ethernet control, and Dante audio is coming to WinMaster. Dante, as you see here, will support 128 by 128 inputs and outputs over Dante. Again, any embedded source that you have can be sent to Dante, and then Dante back to embedded. The hardware that you need for the Dante compatibility is built into the unit. The software activation will come later with the software update. Again, free of charge, right? So to review, Dante hardware is built in. You don't need to worry about any physical upgrades to the units. However, the software for it will come at a later time. Same thing with LTC. LTC is also available for the first time in screens management, allowing you to receive a timecode input that can trigger queues so that you can have now a screens management part of a show control. And so Dante and linear timecode, both are going to be activated in a future release. They are not working in the first release. The Genlock input and Genlock output is now available in Encore3. The Genlock output, once again, it can output any Genlock signals that you want to generate from the Encore3, again, generated inside the unit and provide a sync to external devices. In the past, E2 was only a loop-through. Now you have an active generated output. When it comes to slots, we have 7 slots. The very first one is link, or it can be used as an input slot as well, so you can put an input card into it. The slot 2 and 3 is input only, and then the last 4 is flex slots, first time to WinMaster. Flex slots allow you to have an option to put an input card or an output card, but as we go into the future, as we have new generation cards available, it could be bi-directional and now allowing you to have more inputs and outputs available within a single chassis. As we are shipping Encore3 in the first release, they're shipping with Gen 2 cards. And so this is how they're shipping. So you have the link in the first slot. Then you have the 4 Gen 2 input cards. That's 16 4K 60 inputs. And then 8 4K 60 outputs with the 2 output cards in the flex slots. Well, what if you need more inputs and maybe you don't need to link units? Well, at that point, take out the Gen 2 card that you already have in the shelves and put it into the unit, and giving you an option of having, let's say, 24 4K 60 in and 4 4K 60 out. Well, what if you need more outputs? Well, you can have an output card be placed into it, and now it's a 16 by 12 system. But what I think is the most valuable configuration, most useful configuration of the Encore3 is this. 24K 60 in with any choice of connectors that you need, HDMI, SDI, DisplayPort, and 8 4K 60 outputs. Well, the 8 4K 60 outputs, let's say they're utilized for a 3 4K wide screen, a left and right iMac, again at 4K 60 with all those layers that we talked about. You may have an additional feed that's a remote feed, a delay feed, a recording feed, again at 4K 60. That's great. You got 6 4K 60 outputs, but you still have some additional feeds that are secondary in nature and may not need to be 4K at all. Maybe HD is sufficient. And so the 2 4K outs that are still left on this box What we recommend is to pair them with a quad splitter. And now you can have up to 8 HD outputs with all those layers that we talked about. Again, a live mixing background, and then 8 4K 60 pips that can go anywhere within these quads. So in total, 20 4K 60 in, 6 4K 60 out, and 8 HD outputs is very powerful and good enough for most shows. But of course, when you need the power for more, link the 2 units, and now you have more power. So in review, a single box has 8 4K 60 program outputs with all the layers that we talked about, 2 4K 60 multi-viewers, again, that are generated inside the box that can go to any layer, any output. Of course, we have auxes, and these auxes are 2 4K 60 scaled auxes per output card. You have 2 output cards in this configuration, so 4 auxes. Now, you may not need to use auxes. Perhaps use the program outputs that are well capable, more suitable for secondary needs. And again, auxes are just there as an additional functionality. You may not need to use it. When you link the units together, well, everything doubles. You have 16 4K 60 outputs, 4 4K 60 multi-viewers, and the auxes double as well. And so our proposition is that you buy 2 Encore3s, use them independently for your smaller events, make your returns faster. But when you need the power, when you need to drive more screens, more inputs, more outputs, combine them together for a larger show, making an optimal choice for your investments. Link card is now supported with a new connector. It's the QSFP28 100 gig, standardized, widely available connector in the networking world. When a link card ships from Barco, it will ship with the 2-meter long copper cables. But after that, Barco is not going to supply any additional accessories. If you need them, contact your network switch vendors or network switch providers, and they will be able to supply them to you. Once again, it's a widely available, inexpensive in nature, QSFP28 100 gig connectors. That's what's used in the link card. Each link card has 4 connectors, and really powerful enough for you to share any source that you have from one box to another, and vice versa. To control the box, there are several ways. Well, we have the user interface. The Event Master Toolset version 10.0 is going to be supported on Mac and Windows. We also have added in a programmable web widget panel. The programmable web widget panel allows you to program a custom user interface that is accessible via HTML-based devices, a phone, a laptop, an iPad, in a browser. On this page, you can add cues or presets. Again, you choose what you want to provide an access to, and give that access to somebody else, right? So each web page can have up to 3 pages. In total, you can have up to 10 widgets. And then, of course, when you need the power, we do have our external API that's compatible with Crestron, QSys, and even Companion, just like we did in the past. So multiple ways to control the box. You have the user interface, you have the programmable web widget panel, and then you have the external API that gives you the full control of the box as you need it. Well, without any delay, what you have been waiting to see is how this box works, how it performs, how easy is it to use. Well, let's get going. Vince, why don't you take us away?
Great, thanks Harry. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you for joining us. So as Harry stated, we have a live demonstration or as we stated earlier, we have a live demonstration for you here in the room. And to do that, I've actually brought a bit of a slide here to help show you what we're doing in the room. So for the live demonstration today, we're taking multiple inputs, such as a media server, some cameras, some graphic servers, and some stills. And we're going to bring those into our main demo system, also known as the linked system, and which is 2 Encore3s linked together. And then we're going to send some outputs from that demo system, the linked demo system, to what we're calling our downstream unit, also known as the Solo DS box. And you'll see that these names pop up in Event Master Toolset here shortly. We're bringing it all together, and we're going to create a a muxed output feed, right, where we're going to have like inlays and multiple pip windows and show you like a composition of all of the outputs that we're utilizing, as well as the EventMaster Toolset user interface, and then of course me, right? So we're going to have that, and then we're also using it to serve this LED wall, as well as a couple of other multi-viewers and monitors that you may or may not see here in the room throughout the demonstration. So with that said, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to go into my EventMaster toolset. You can't see this just yet, but I'm going to recall a preset, and with 2 clicks of a button, we're going to get down to our EventMaster toolset on screen here. Now, this is the first exposure to EventMaster toolset. It may look a little bit busy initially, but that's because this is what we're using, again, to control what's happening inside the room. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to shift over from what we're calling the Solo DS, the Solo Downstream Box, over to our linked system. And then we're going to go to the configuration page. So in the configuration page here is where we're going to start to see really our first interaction with EventMaster Toolset, or our first real interaction with EventMaster Toolset. And we can already see right off the bat some of the benefits of our assisted workflows, right? Like all of our screen destinations are created, all of our input configurations are created. What we're going to do is just real quick, before we get started with any more configuration, right? What we're going to do is just take a quick tour of EventMaster Toolset. So on the left-hand side, we have our devices, our pages, where we can switch between our multi-view programming, external devices and queues, so on and so forth. And then we have our devices tab. This is going to show us where all of the devices that we see on the network are, right? So we can see that we have the Solo DS box over here, and then we have our 2 linked systems here. Then we can change between the 2 systems here in these tabs. We can rename them, so on and so forth. And then we could take a look at the detail view of the configuration for our linked system. Now, when I say that, when I call that out, it's really important because we could take a look at the detail view, which is where we configure all of the details of the system, or we could take a look at the system view and see how the system is wired up, because a system is actually one or many physical units ganged together utilizing the link connectors, okay? And then we have, speaking of link connectors, we have our link resources button. And the link resource button is going to show us where all of our links are being utilized. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this one because we're going to come back to it later in the demonstration, but this is where we would see the links or see the sources or destinations being passed across the links in our linked system, because we're fully transparent about how the links happen now, right? And because we want to give you the ability to adjust them later on, okay? So we're going to go back to our detail view. And again, this is where we start to see the actual benefit of those assisted workflows. But before we get too deep into that, what I want to do is just show you a couple of configuration things inside of the 2 linked unit. So here we have Encore3 Unit ID 0 and Encore3 Unit ID 1. Now, remember, when you're using a linked system, each unit has to have its own unique unit ID and IP address. Okay, so the unit ID for the host is generally 0, and the unit ID for the first client is generally 1. As we expand out, you'll start to see those numbers increase, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. And to adjust those, you can go and you can select a unit banner. You can select a unit banner and go into the Adjust Unit tab here at the top right-hand corner. Now, the Adjust Unit in the Adjust Unit tab, you can actually change the name of the unit. So we could change like the host unit to Unit Encore3 1-1 if we wanted to. We can take a look at which software version it's running, the OS, the serial numbers. We can do soft reset. We can take a look at components like our motherboard or our slots and see how the fans are running, or how if the temp is okay or not. We can go through and take a look at the setup, and we can adjust the unit ID if we wanted to. We can do stuff like flash the front panel. We can even adjust the TCI capacity mode. So as Harry was saying, on the tri-combo input, TCI, tri-combo input, we have the ability to have 4 4K inputs being brought in on it. But you'll notice on a TCI or even a TCO, there's 6 connectors. Well, this is where we would choose which 4 connectors we want to utilize, right? So currently I have the system set to bottom 4, the 1 TCI that I have it set to bottom 4. But I could change that to middle 4 or top 4, and then it would actually assign the capacity for me for those, thus taking away and giving to other inputs for that. Now you'll notice that there's no TCO, and that's okay because as we select that, we can just select the ones we want to use and it'll automatically adjust the capacity for the TCO as the system deems necessary. Below that, we have the time settings. Inside the time settings, we can choose to listen to an NTP server. We can choose to not to listen to an NTP server and then enter the system time and date manually. Or we can say, hey, look, we want to go to a specific NTP server. We could do it there. Down below, or down to the left of that, we have some readouts, some creature feature stuff, like the unit IP address and the unit ID. And then to the left of that, we have the genlock and free run, the genlock adjustments. So we can select free run or lock to external, give it the unit, or give it the unit ID of which one we want to listen to. At launch, it's going to be it's always going to be unit ID 0, but in the future, we'll change that. To the left of that is where you can adjust the system native rate, the preset conflict mode, and the preset conflict time. Not going to go too deep into that, but you can make those adjustments and discover for yourself. And below that, we have the autosave feature. The autosave feature is super cool. It's something we've added for Event Master version 10. And what that does is after 1 minute of inactivity, it will actually initiate an autosave for us, right? It'll save the configuration for us. Speaking of saving, let's take a look at the top right hand and we'll see the Save All button, okay? Next to that, we have the Configure Multi-Operator button, which we're not going to talk about in this demonstration. But I'll tell you what, if there's features in here that you want to see, that you really want to dive down into, I highly encourage you to come see us at one of our Barco University classes, either in Rancho Cordova with me, in Duluth, or abroad. We've spent a lot of time training trainers to become quite good at helping us train Encore3. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about this, come see us at a class. To the left of that, we have our test pattern button. Now, before we click this test pattern button, what I want to do is I want to give you an example of this, right? So maybe we created these user-assisted workflows or these assisted workflows to maybe get inputs and outputs on screen and get stuff up and running, because the first thing that people want to say when you arrive on site is how fast can you get me content to screens, right? We want to test signal, we want to test reliability, we want to test engineering, right? So how fast can you get us an output? Well, previously with other processors, with our processors, you may have had, you have to go in, you have to configure the output, you have to assign it, so on and so forth. Well, if we have created all of our destination configurations for you upon boot up or upon a factory reset, that means we could just get that much faster at getting signal out, okay? And so one of the things that we've done is we've said, okay, we'll make an assisted workflow where if you do a factory reset, we automatically create an output configuration for every one of your physical outputs. And then that allows us to go into this, to maybe click this test pattern button. And this is our first exposure to the pop-out system, okay? It's a pop-out window system. So we can go in, we can drag this around, and we could select one or many of our outputs, one or all of our outputs, and we could say, you know what, let's turn on a test pattern. So let's do 100% color bars, and we can see all of our color bars populate here at the bottom, okay? So let's go ahead and close that off, and we'll close out of that. Now there's some more features with the test pattern I'm not going to go into today because, again, out of time, or running short on time. So because all of our destinations were created through the assisted workflow, then we could send out test pattern really quickly. Well, the other assisted workflow that we do is we actually create input configurations for all of the live inputs that are plugged in automatically, right? So if you take something, you stab it in, and you have signal going to it, it will automatically create the input configuration. The input configuration will be one input configuration per input, so per connector, okay? So you might say, but Vince, oh, that's great and everything, but what happens when I have, say, like a group input configuration? What happens then? How can I create a group input configuration? Well, here in the studio, what we've done is we have a media server coming in. That's three inputs, and by default, it created an input config for each one of the inputs. But we want to group those all together. So what we're going to do is we're going to select one of them, and we're going to hit the control button, and we're going to select the other two, and then we're going to delete those. Okay, and then we're going to select the three inputs that we want to gang together or group together, and we'll hit Add Single. And so here we have the group input connector. So if we select it, we can see that I can rename it. So we'll call this Media Server. And then not only do we have the group input connector, but we actually have each one of the connectors that are a part of the group isolated as well. So gone are the days of, well, if you use a connector for a group input, you're stuck with either all or none, right? Now we can say, okay, let's take the group input and let's pull out the center input and maybe use it somewhere else. Let's pull out the left input, use it on my left iMag. Let's pull out the right input of that group input and put it on my right iMag, right? So let's just connect, let's name those. So we'll just call those D1, D2, and D3. Now, you can see that every time I click one of these, this input window pops up. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is where all the settings get adjusted. Here's where we can go in. We can rename it, just like I renamed it by double-clicking on the name. We can observe the format. We can take a look at the color range, the HDMI 2.0 soft resets, the HDCP mode. We can adjust the EDID, the format, the color, and even the mapping, right? So maybe we don't have a 3:1, maybe we have a 1:3, right? So 1:3 versus a 3:1, okay? So we're just gonna leave it in a 3:1 because that's a configuration we're gonna set up here in a little bit. And then we're done. We're really done with inputs. I mean, it was that quick because I had all of them coming in, and I'll be honest with you, before we started, I had renamed them all so that because you don't want to watch me rename them all, that's boring. So I had renamed them all because when I started it, they were already created, right? The input configurations were already created. So we're done with inputs. Now let's go to our outputs. Output's pretty fun because we have some, not only do we have the assisted workflow of initiating a output configuration for every output that we have available upon a factory reset, but we have the ability to delete those and create our own configurations. Like say if we had a large LED wall that we wanted to do, or maybe a left iMag, a right iMag, and a couple of remote feeds, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna delete all of them by selecting them, and I can hit Control and select each one individually. That might get pretty tedious over time as I select all 16. So I'll hit Control A, and then I will hit Delete Screen Destination. It'll ask me if I'm sure. I am sure. I will hit Delete, give it a second to catch up. Okay, it has deleted all of my screen destinations, and now I'm gonna start from scratch, okay? So starting from scratch isn't really as intimidating as it sounds. It's actually quite quick, quite intuitive, and with our wizards, it becomes pretty awesome, right? So I'm actually gonna start with my center widescreen. So in this composition that you see here, we have our left iMag, center widescreen, right iMag, so on and so forth. But I'm gonna start with our center widescreen. So I'm gonna start there, and I'm gonna go with, so let's go ahead and go to our screen tab. We're gonna go to the LED button, and we're gonna type in center wide screen. And then we're gonna choose the connector resolution. And total horizontal, what's my total horizontal? I actually don't know. I'm not that great at math. Somebody told me what the pixel count was per panel. So, I do remember that, and I remember that it was 192 pixels by 192 pixels. I also overheard somebody say that there were 60 panels wide by 11 panels tall. So without having to do some quick math, I can actually have the wizard do it for me by saying, well, it's 192 times 60 for my horizontal, which leads me to 11,520. And then again, it was 11 tall, so I'm gonna go 192 by 11 tall and hit enter. And the wizard has figured out that with my output connector resolution set to 3840 by 2160, I need 3 connectors to accomplish this. Okay, so what 3 connectors am I going to choose and how do I get them there? Well, the easiest way to do this is to select a connector. And select a port, select a box, select a connector, or I can drag and drop. Okay? And then I'll hit create screen destination. And there it is. So there's my screen destination. We can see that it has 3 outputs, 4 layers, 11,520 by 2112. In fact, I'll click into it and we can see our pop-out box here. Sweet, right? So in our settings, we have the auto configure output format. We can save it as an EDID file. And then we can see that the wizard has filled in our area of interest, has adjusted our area of interest for us at 2112, right? Vertical at 2112. So effectively, we're done here if we wanted to. Now, here's where we can go in and perhaps perform a stack if you wanted to. So we can go in and say, you know what? Maybe I need more layers on this. I can add 8 mixers. Now that's going to chip away at our screen resource bar that we have here. As you can see, there are 3 green bars here indicating we've used 3 outputs of our 8 available. So of course that'll chip away at our screen resource bar. We don't want to do that for this demonstration. We're fine with leaving it as 4 layers. So let's go down below here and let's move on. Let's create our left IMAG. Okay, and we're going to go with 3840 by 2160, create screen destination, okay. And then we're going to go with our right IMAG, which will be here. Okay, right IMAG. And then we're going to drag and drop this, boom, create. And then we have our remote feed, okay. And we're going to, for this one, we're going to set it 3840, 2160 and drag and drop. Okay. And then we have our stage quad, 3840, 2160. And then we're going to drag and drop this one as well, because I'm a personal fan of the drag and drop. I really like that one. Okay. ENG feed. All right, and we're going to drag and drop for that guy. Boom, drop it in. Oh, almost missed that. Okay, now what you'll notice is that we have all of our outputs created. So our screen resource bar is full, first off. Second off, you may have noticed that I did not make the right IMAG 3840 by 2160. In fact, it was at 1920 by 1080, which is the default. So what I can go in and do is 3840, 2160 CEA, hit apply, and then we'll see the changes have been made and we're good to go. So all of our outputs, 3840, 2160, we're ready to rock and roll. Okay. So to be honest and fair, if I hadn't been talking through that whole setup probably would have taken me maybe 3 to 4 minutes tops. From the input creation to the output creation. You could see that with the assisted workflows, it's become so much faster, so much easier to navigate. So if we really wanted to, real quick before we leave the outputs, what I want to touch on are the settings, for each individual output or even a group of output. So if we want to say, okay, here are the settings, we can go in and we could do all of the connector mapping or connector settings. We can do the soft reset, the timing, the color, and the wide tab. Wide tab is super important. Maybe not right now for this demonstration, but this is where you can increase or decrease your data double, or even initiate feathering for the outside of the actual outputs. Again, feathering super useful if you're going to do projector blending. And again, this is where you would data double. Now, to be fair, we're not going to go into it, but the projection wizard for the output, super powerful as well. If we wanted to touch on that, we could type in the amount of overlap we're going to experience. as well as, it'll basically figure out all the overlap for us if we just type in the actual total horizontal resolution and fill it in as such, and then apply the data double as necessary. We're not going to get into that too deep, but I just wanted to show you that before we finish. Okay, so we've got our input set up. We've got our output set up. We're ready to create some MultiViewer. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the MultiViewer page. The MultiViewer for Encore3 is awesome because by default we have 2 MultiViewers per unit. So as we can see, we have 4 MultiViewer windows here because we have 2 Encore3s in this linked system. Now, in regards to the MultiViewer for each independent system, or excuse me, for each discrete system, will really only see will only see its the inputs that are being brought into that chassis or that unit, and the destinations that are being processed on that unit. Therefore, we have 4 MultiViewers, 2 per. So ID0 MultiViewer 1, ID0 MultiViewer 2. Those are going to be able to see the inputs and the destinations that are being processed inside of unit ID 0, 3 and 4, unit ID 1 respectively, right? So if we take a look over here at the right-hand side, this is where we can adjust the MultiViewer, where we can configure the resolution or enable the HDCP mode or not, and then do stuff like create output colors for the border, the shadow, or for the border, the UMD, or the background. So let's take a look at, because we're really bringing most of our inputs and processing most of our destinations in on the unit ID 0 for this link system. We're going to be mostly dealing inside of unit ID 0. So I'm going to uncheck unit ID 1's MultiViewers, and I'm really just going to focus on ID 0's MultiViewers. Okay. So for that, it's actually super simple. I'm going to set a background, and I'm actually going to do a background color first. Okay, so I can do a color, but new for VentMaster 10, VentMaster version 10 is I can actually bring in a still. So I can bring in a still that we're utilizing, and let's do clouds, right? So I took the liberty of importing some stills earlier. Hope you don't mind. I didn't want to waste our time with still importation. So I'll come over here to all sources, and it's as simple as dragging and dropping them inside of the window here to start building our MultiViewer. Now I'm not going to go too crazy here and create the Mona Lisa of MultiViewers or anything like that. I'm just going to drop these in and rock and roll. And then I want to do the destinations as well so we can see those. So let's go with the destinations. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Not going to do all of them. Just, how about just the left eye mag, the center screen. Hey, let me scooch this over. Left eye mag. Boom. Preview and program for those. I like program on top because that's the way we look at it in the programming section. So go boom, boom. And then right eye mag. And then we'll just pretty these up a little tiny bit. Now, if I wanted to really take the time and invest it, I could come down here below and start using my alignment buttons where I have like a line vertical center, a line absolute left, a line absolute right, a line absolute top. So I have absolute and then I have relative. Absolute is to the window, relative is to maybe another window. Absolute is to the raster of the MultiViewer, but relative is maybe relative to another window inside of that MultiViewer. We'll get into those buttons a little bit later as we do the programming in the programming section. But I don't want to get into that here. We can select these, we can clear them, we can refit them, we can turn the UMD on off, turn the AOI markers on off, we can turn the border on, turn the border off, we can select all of them, unselect all, so on and so forth. And then we can, misclick, sorry. We can even go into the adjust window and start to see actual actual detail on each one of the windows. So I said, really, I want my window to be 961 wide by 181 tall. I could type in those metrics and start to get a little bit more precision. Luckily for us, we don't really need to do that. We're going to build our MultiViewer and move on. To the right of that, we have our MultiViewer templates, which I think are pretty important to show. So we're going to select ID1, and we're going to show you some MultiViewer templates, like maybe say this 8 by 10, or we'll clear it. Yes, I do know that I want to clear it, and then I'll maybe do a 2 by 2 by 9, right? And the cool thing about these templates is you can recall the template and then take a source from your all sources and then drag it into the window, and it will populate that window. So as you can see, we, again, assisted workflows, right? Trying to get you up and running. That's much more beautiful. If I add a background to that, drop in some sources, that would have been quicker and more beautiful than what I created on the fly, right? So we're really focused on giving you the best user experience possible, okay? So we're kind of done with multi-viewers. There is one more tab here, the multi-viewer presets. Again, not going to get into that. If you want to see what that does, come see us in a training class, and I'll show you exactly how to do it, right? So let's jump into the programming page. Now, we got our first exposure of the programming page when we were on the Solo DS system, when I changed over from my assist slide into VMaster toolset, because I was controlling everything in the room. Why wouldn't I, right? So we saw our programming, but now we're going to really tool down into it. I want to give you a quick look at how it all works and do some demonstration on our destinations. So by default, all of these will be collapsed, and as you expand them, you can see your inputs. You can see the stills that we may have imported or that you may want to import by using the upload still button or a capture, right? Because you can capture still inputs from a live input. You can use our destinations, because we can use destinations as sources in a layer, right? Or even an auxiliary. And then you can even use a multi-viewer as an input source for a layer, which is what we're going to do with our ENG quad. Speaking of our ENG quad, let's take a look at our destinations inside of the programming window. So here's the programming window, and down below we have our preview section. Up above we have our program section. So you build your look in preview, and then you transition that to program, which is also a virtual representation of your outputs, okay? So we can lock and unlock each one individually so that you maybe don't alter anything that's on program, right? So if you're in a high stress, high profile situation, you've got something on program you don't want to mess up, right? So you can press the lock button. It'll stop you from making any mistakes, or it will trigger may stop you from triggering a preset recall erroneously, right? So let's say that we really wanted to maybe change this to make it a little bit more appealing, visually appealing for us, right? We can adjust the windows both side to side and up and down, but we're going to reset this, make it look all nice and square and clean. We can tool down onto each one individually. So say I really want to look at my center screen, but I don't really want to look at my ENG quad currently because I'm not working in that area. Now you might say, well, what happens if I want to look at maybe just my screens and maybe, but not my feeds, or maybe I just want to look at my feeds but not my screens? Well, we can do this thing called screen layouts, which I think are pretty cool. We can select a layout here, we can double click it, and we'll just call this one screens. And what we'll do is we'll take our left IMAG, we'll drop it in, our center widescreen, drop that in, and then our right IMAG, and drop that in. So here we have our three screens, our left IMAG, our center screen, and our right IMAG. So just because we don't see the feeds portion of this doesn't mean they don't exist. They are still very much armed for transition, selected for transition. So as we see here, there's a little checkbox next to each one of these destinations, and as I check them or uncheck them, there's a little blue bar that pops up on it, which indicates that it's armed for transition. And as I check that last box, you'll notice at the bottom right-hand corner down here, the All Trans button went dark gray, meaning there's no destination selected for transition. So how do we do that, right? How do we transition? Well, we select the little checkbox, or we click the View All. It gives us all of them, right? If we can click the little View All checkbox, which will give us all of them, and they're all ready for transition from preview. So let's start making some looks. Well, first off, let me do a feeds layout so that we can just see the 3 feeds really quickly. So we'll go with remote feed, stage quad, engineering feed. Okay. So again, just because we don't see our screens doesn't mean they're not going to be affected. In fact, you got to be careful when you program your presets, because the preset will also remember the state of your destination, and if it is selected for a transition, then it will record that. It will record that destination and all of the parameters that you have inside of that destination, or it will record the fact that it was not selected and it will conform accordingly. Okay, so let that blow over you. If it doesn't make sense, come see me in a class. I'll show you some more detail. So let's take a look at the engineering feed. Now, we want to bring some layers into the engineering feed. One of the ways that we do that, one of the quick and easy ways that we can do that is we can go into the inputs and we can grab, say, we'll grab one of our graphics machines and we'll drop it in. And what that did is that grabbed the first available layer that was available, and we could see in our screen layer bar here that was layer 1 alpha, right? So what it did is it grabbed a layer, took the source, dropped it in, married it, dropped it on our preview. Okay, well, maybe especially for the ENG feed, we don't want to use a mix layer. Maybe we want to use a single layer, right? Like half of a mix layer. As Harry stated before, you can take a mix layer, you can cut it in half into 2 split layers. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually clear that layer real quick. So we'll clear that layer out, and what we'll do is we'll select the layer in the screen layer bar, and we'll hit split, and then we'll drag out the A side to it, and the B side, and you'll see that the B side has no source yet. And we'll do the same thing to layer 2. We'll split it, and we'll drag out the second layer, and that layer, okay? So now let's say for this demonstration, we want to make each one of these pips 1920 by 1080, put them into the 4 different places, right? Like we had like a quad splitter, and we were going to make 4 1920 by 1080 outputs out of one 3840 by 2160. So what we could do is we can go into the Adjust Layer tab. Now the Adjust Layer tab, because I have a layer selected, is going to give me the option to adjust all of the configuration for that layer, right? So I can choose it to be a pip or a key. I can make it a matte color. By the way, that's new for EventMaster version 10. It's awesome. We can add keyframes. We can do border shadow. We can create a matte for it, right? Or here's the matte adjustment, excuse me. We can adjust the window sizing or masking or the source sizing. The source stuff is a bit of an advanced feature. I'm not going to go into that. So we know that we want this pip to be 1920, right? Because we know it's a 2x2 of 1920 by 1080 to make 3840 by 2160. So we're going to select it, make sure it's selected, and we're going to hit our absolute alignment button. We're going to absolute align it left and top, okay? And we're going to go do the same with this one. Yeah, we're going to go do the same with this one. In fact, we're going to go 1920, and we'll select it, and we'll align it absolute right, absolute top. And let's grab a source for that. So this is our engineering feed. Maybe we don't want those. Well, let's use our MultiViewers for those 2 guys. So we'll go MultiViewer 1, MultiViewer 2, all right? Now, I have the pip size here, but you know, I'm getting kind of lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select the remaining 2 pips. I had the first one selected, 2A selected. I'm going to select the remaining 2 pips, and I'm going to use this new button called Match Vertical Size. And what that's going to do is that's going to match the size of the first selected pip, okay? So that's cool. Well, now just to snap them into place, let's go ahead and align absolute left and bottom, align absolute right and bottom, and we're all set. Sort of. Again, we have to add some sources to that. So let's grab some inputs like cam 3 and a media server. Or sorry, not a media server, excuse me, a graphics machine. Okay, so that's super cool, and we just you know, really tooled those in very quickly. But say you had 16 outputs, right? And you had to do that for every one of your outputs if you chose to utilize the box that way. That could get pretty tedious. It could be kind of a long programming section. So what we've done is we've created these things called user keys. And a user key records specifically selected parameters to record into, a user key. And we can deploy that user key to then take those settings and apply them to other layers very quickly. So let me give you a quick example of that. So I have selected the position and size as one of the elements to record, and I'm going to select a layer and I'm going to hit Save New User Key. And then I'm going to call this one top left, okay? This one, I'll select it, make sure my position and size are selected, save to new user key, top right. Okay? Now, you'll notice that every time I save one of these user keys, I have to stop and double click to rename it. Maybe if I hit on if in the creation mode I click rename and we select one of them, what's it going to do? It's going to automatically allow us to rename it. So let's go ahead and go bottom left, all right? And then we're going to do the same with the bottom right. Okay, so you can see again, just with a couple of clicks of a button, we're starting to get faster and faster incrementally, and those incremental improvements over time really improve the overall user experience, right? So that once you get used to all the little tips and tricks inside of EventMaster toolset, you can start to become a very quick and very precise operator, okay? So let's do our stage quad. This one's gonna go a little bit faster. In fact, I'm gonna pre-split everything, and then I'm gonna drag them all out, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, so on and so forth, and then I'm gonna drop some cameras into those. So 1, 2, 3, and then a graphics server. And now here's where you're gonna see the real magic happen with our user key. So our user key we can deploy by either dragging and dropping it, or selecting the layer, selecting the user key and hit apply selected. So you see how quick we just created that quad split output, right? Just with a few clicks of a button, and we've dragged in some sources, and boom, we're all set up. About a third of the time, maybe even an eighth of the time that it took me to create the engineering feed. So for the remote feed, let's just throw a camera in there. Maybe we'll throw this camera, double clicked on the actual thumbnail, which allows us to assign thumbnails, not just capture them from inputs like I currently did here. So what we're gonna do is select that, drag it out there. We're just gonna keep it as a mixed layer because we don't really care about it too much, as far as layer management goes. So in our remote feed, we're gonna go down and we're gonna click this full screen vertical button, which if we select that, it's going to expand it to full screen vertical. Now, it just so happens that the aspect ratios were matching. So full screen vertical also means full screen horizontal in a 1920 by 1080 or 3840 by 2160 pip, right? So it's going to maintain aspect ratio and expand it out to full screen vertical or horizontal, whichever one we choose. So again, more things to make people faster, right? To make operators faster. I could have gone into the Adjust Layer tab, typed in all the metrics, zeroed it out, hit Enter, would have done the same thing, but with one click of a button, I was able to do it super quick. So let's go to the screen feed, and let's take a look at the screen feed. And let's do some left IMAG, right IMAG action, right? So we'll get those dialed in real quick, and we'll use those same buttons. We don't really care about the layers because we have plenty of them for this setup, so we're not going to split them or anything. We're not going to make quads. We're not going to do anything. Just full screens, and then we're going to jump into the center screen. Now, the center screen's a bit wide for this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tool down on that one specifically by clicking the center widescreen, and I'm going to take a look at our backgrounds. So we're going to drag and drop this massive still into the background by selecting it, dropping it in. And let's zoom out a little bit inside of our window so we can see this repositionable background. First, we got to turn on our show hide AOI, right? So we can see our repositionable background, all right? Now we can go ahead and center that. We can left justify, top justify, but really, you know, honestly, we don't want to use one of these awesome massive backgrounds. We just want to use our inputs, use our media server as an input. So we'll go over to our input tab, select our media server, drop it in, and there it is. Now I didn't actually assign a thumbnail to it, so we're not going to see any kind of visual indication other than the source in the top left-hand corner that it's accurate. But again, I want to double down on the fact that I'm using a background input that's 11,520 by 2160 on a destination that's 11,520 by 2112, right? So again, we have the ability to use these repositionable backgrounds that don't have to match the destination size. So we can, and to be fair, I can take that destination or that background and reposition it anywhere within this as well. But I don't want to. I want to use that as a background. In fact, I want to take a look at my view all. And so here in my view all, I'm going to shut off my AOI markers. I can see in my preview that I have sources and inputs set up for every one of my destinations. I have one on my center widescreen, left IMAG, right IMAG, so on and so forth. And now, the magic, I want to transition that to program. So as I transition that to program, we're going to hit to transition that to program, I want to hit this All Trans button at the bottom right, because again, they are all selected for transition. And so we'll transition, and you should see everything on our composition here, right? So we see our center widescreen, we see our left IMAG, we see our outputs, right? And we see a virtual representation of that happening in the programming screen up top, okay? So let's create a preset real quick. Let's zoom back in, and let's create a preset with all of the destinations selected for transition or selected for preset record as well. So we can save it from preview, save it from program, because the way we transitioned it to program, we can either choose one or the other. They're both identical. So let's save it from preview, and then we'll select it, and we'll call this the clean look. From here on out, we're going to focus mainly on the widescreen, so much so that we're actually going to deselect the other destinations so they don't get included in the presets that we're about to build. And what I'm going to show you in the center widescreen is the difference between screen layers with mixed layers, screen layers with output layers, screen layers with split layers, and so on and so forth. So just hang on tight. We're gonna go through some presets here. So for this one, I already have my clean preset, so I'm good to go. Let's go ahead and drag in a source, so let's drag in a layer, and let's pick a source. Let's drag in a layer, pick a source, like this media server here, okay? And we're going to adjust layer. We'll make it negative 1920, and we'll do a vertical, okay? And then we'll grab another layer, drag that layer in. We'll make sure it's the same size, and then we'll center them. And then we'll make sure that this one is at 1920. So we have our media server background, we have our 2 layers, and we're going to save that into a preset. So save from preview, and we're going to clear the layer 2A here. We're going to drag layer 1A to the center. We're going to transition to program, and we're actually going to program a preset from program now. Okay, so we'll take it to program, and I've unlocked my program so you guys can see this in the composition. So now I'm going to start programming in the composition so you can see this happening live, right? So I have my split layer, okay? I'm sorry, I have my mixed layer here, layer 1A. So now what I want to do is I want to take layer 2 and I want to split it just like we saw for the engineering quad or the stage quad. Okay, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag out a layer here. I drop it on the left, and then choose another source for it. Boom, right here, and then drag 2B over here, making sure that these are the same size, of course, and then vertical center, and then let's make sure that they are mirrored properly. So this one is negative 3653. This one should be positive 3653, and then we'll save that into a preset. Instead of hitting save from preview this time, we're going to make sure to hit save from program, and we'll call this one one mix to single, and then we're going to go back and rename our preset that we had missed before. My apologies. We'll call that one two mix. Okay, so let's close these out, or let's clear these out, and let's make them screen layers, right? So the next preset will have one mix layer screen layer, and multiple split layer output layers. So we're going to take layer 2A, we're going to drag that into program, and we're going to bring it up, and we will click this new button called unmerge. And what that's going to do is that's going to trigger our output layer bar. So currently, our output layer bar is showing, well, first off, let's hide our AOI markers. Our output layer bar is showing that if we hover over it, it will actually highlight the pips and highlight them on the preview or program window, okay? But it's showing that layer 2 1A, which is for output number 1, layer 2 2A for output number 2, and layer 2.3A for output 3 are all selected. So let's just select 2.3, put it in its respective location. Let's select 2.2, put it there in its respective location. In fact, really we want to clear that one because we already have a mix layer on screen, in the middle, in the center screen, in the center of the screen, output 2. So we have layer 2.1 in its respective location. And then we'll go one step further, and let's shrink these a little bit. Make sure they are the same size and horizontally centered. So we'll select this one, and then select this guy, and then do a match V size, and then center it horizontally, and let's do a relative align, okay? And then let's grab layer 2.1b and drag it in, and then let's change the source on that one, right? So here we have 2.1b. Let's make that one slightly smaller. And let's center it horizontally. Let's grab 2.3b and drag it into the third, and let's make the same size. So we'll select, match vertical size, and then horizontal center, and then let's do a relative bottom, boom, okay? So they're the same size, location, they're same size and location for each respective output layer. All right, and so then let's save that as a preset, save from program. We'll call this one mix to split / screen layers. All right, now the power of Encore 3 really lies in the fact that we can dynamically adapt to the presets in which we record. So if I were to go through and I'd say choose the 2 mix, then it would bounce back into mix layer mode where it was only the 2 mix layers, layer 1, layer 2 respectively. If I were to do the 1 mix to single, it would then disable the output layer mode and show disable the output layer mode and show the one mix and the 2 splits. And then if I were to come back into this preset, it would show the 1 mix with the two mix splits. But we're going to push past that, and we're going to go right on into one more preset that I'm really excited about, and that is the cut and fill feature, 4K cut and fill, which is active now. So we're going to go ahead and clear all these layers. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to take ourselves out of this output layer state. Since we're here, we're going to take ourselves out of it by selecting all of the output layers and then selecting merge. And then I'm actually going to take it and make it I'm going to unsplit the layer as well, making it a screen layer, a mix screen layer, excuse me, or a screen layer in mix mode, however you want to say it. This next one is going to be 4K cut and fill. All right, so we're going to set this one up, we're going to start with a clean preview. So let's start with a clean preview. And what we're going to do is we're going to take layer 2A, and we're going to bring it into program, and we're going to center it, making sure it's a mix layer. Then we're going to take layer 1A, and we're going to split it. And we're going to take layer 1A, put it over here on the left. and we're going to make that our cut source, okay? And then we're going to take layer 1B and put it over here on the right, vertically and horizontally center. And then we're going to make that our fill source, okay? So we've got our cut source and our fill source. Now, let's mix them together and make it a cut and fill. So we're going to select the second layer, layer 2. We're going to select adjust layer, and we're going to turn that to key, and we're going to make sure it's at Luma, and we're going to select cut and fill. Now, we have two options. We actually have two options to the way that we're going to handle this cut and fill. We can link pips or match pips, but I'm not going to go into detail too much on what they do individually. I'm just going to show you that we're going to hit match pips, and we're going to make sure that that pip is centered, and we're good to go, ready to rock and roll. All right. So I'm going to take my fill source and I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to choose fill layer 2B, and I'm going to take my cut source and drop it in, and I'm going to hit cut layer 2A. And so on program, we should see the actual cut and fill happening live in real time. All right, now again, I'm going to go back into the preset tab, and I'm going to save this as a preset. Oh, I hit save from preview. I should have hit save from program. So this gives me a great opportunity to select the preset and overwrite from program. Okay, preset 5 overwritten, good. And we'll call this one cut and fill. Okay, so we're all done with presets and some of the awesome examples of our output layers and our programming and our screen layers and mix layers and the wild combinations that we can imagine that you guys are going to get into. But rest assured that when we recall these presets to program, the conflict resolution will work phenomenally, changing the states between between all the different types of layers and whatnot. And so we're going to move on. So now we have a list of presets we can work with, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into our external devices and queues. Now, inside the external devices and queues page, we can add external devices to control over the network, right? We're not going to do that here in the studio today. We're just going to kind of work through this, and if you want to do that, come see us in one of those classes. I'll teach you how to do it. But what we are going to do is we are going to create a queue with a queue list of actions. Okay, so I can go in and I can add a queue, right? So we'll take Q5 here, and we'll add multiple actions to that, right? And then we can add those actions, like say go into the link system and then select a command, maybe like a preset, and then we'll select a variable, right? Like a preset 1, preset 2, preset 3. So let's go just select preset 1, and then we can add a wait time between the two, or we can, pause the actual queue stack after this action, but we don't want to. We want it to shift down to the next. So let's just make sure that all of these are on our link system. And again, in the device list, say if we had more than one system connected, or if we had added an external device, we could choose our system or our external device, right? And then we can send our command, which we would have pre-selected, and then our variable, all right? So let's go ahead and link system, and then we'll all trans, and then we'll link system, and then command, recall a preset, another preset. Let's go with preset 2, and we'll just bounce back and forth between those. In fact, let's do a looping queue. We don't need the rest of these actions. Let's delete them. So let's delete those actions, and we'll do a looping queue. Oh, we did need one, the all trans, because we recalled the preset. So link system, all trans, and then after that, we will go to queue number 5. We're in queue number 5 and select an action number 1, which would just loop. Now we can tune in each individual time if we so chose to by double clicking, or we can grab the top one and say make it 300 frames, because this is frames. So it's about 5 seconds, because we're at roughly 60 frames a second. So it's roughly 5 seconds. And then we would hit the play button to fire these queues. And then we would see all of the transitions happening, and we'd be rocking and rolling. It would be great. It is great. We're not going to do that because we're working through these. If we went to our next up is our controller page. So the controller page, it's very much similar to previous versions of EventMaster toolset. EC30, EC50 work right out of the box for Encore3, EC210 and future releases. But here's where you would program your controller. And then we're going to just shift down. We're going to go to the show page, the show file page, excuse me. And in the show file page, this is where we would create our backups. So if we wanted to create a backup of the system, we want to always make sure to save first. And then we're going to go to the backup tab, hit save, and then we'll save it to our local machine, or we could potentially save it to a USB drive if it were on the front. We could restore. We can go to browse, select a file to restore from. We can go to the show file editor. Now this one I'm super proud of and super excited to show you. So let's do a show file edit. So let's say we did save a backup and we saved it to our local computer, and I want to go ahead and grab that. So I'm going to grab that by going to my desktop, and I'm going to go to this backup here, and I'll hit open. Okay, it's going to show me the backup, right? I'll select the backup. And on this backup, I had created some presets and some stills presets and some user keys that I want to import into the current configuration. So I had 4 presets, 3 user keys that I want to import into my current configuration. So I'll select import. And then it'll give me an opportunity to really select and deselect the final import. And then I can do one of two things. I could either hit merge, which will merge them into my current configuration, or I can hit save as backup, which will save it as its own backup, right? So if I were to hit merge, it would ask me if I wanted to reset or merge them in and then reset, or reboot, excuse me, merge them in and reboot. I don't want to do that because we're pushing along. So understand show file, you can take previous stills, cues, HDR files, external devices, EDID files, the whole 9, and bring them into your configuration without destroying your current configuration. All right, below that we have the simulator. We feel like the simulator is really kind of self-explanatory. You just hit the reset and launch button, and it'll show you what's on screen there, and it'll provide a simulator baked into EventMaster Toolset version 10. It's beautiful. I don't think we should really go too deep into this, but again, if you need help, feel free to reach out or take one of the classes. Right. Below that we have, and our final demonstration for today is our widget page. So the widget page is cool because, as Harry mentioned, it's sort of like external control that we've made accessible for everybody. If you have a web browser, you can access a widget, right? So we have 2 options for creating widgets. We can either go from a template, as you see up above here, we can grab a template, or we can create a new widget from scratch. Personally, I like to create new widgets from scratch, so we're going to do that. Over here on the right-hand side of the widget page, we have we have the widget settings where you can rename the widget. So we're just going to leave this widget 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we'll rename it. And then we have the frame size. The frame size is very important because that is where the frame size is going to dictate how it displays on said web page, or maybe even the front panel of your Encore3, right? So for this particular demonstration, we're going to set up a front panel widget. So we're going to make sure front panel is selected. And this is also very important. You got to hit that save button, right? Widget saved. So now that widget is active. If I were to click that link, it would open up a browser. Because I'm on the same network, it would reach out to the live Encore3 linked units that we have here in the room, and it would allow me to adjust this widget. Admittedly, because we haven't created anything on screen yet, it would just be a black screen. So I'm not even going to click it, but we're going to push on. Okay, so one of the cool things about the widgets that I really love is the fact that you can have a still store. So let's go ahead and create a still store for the front panel, right? So we're going to do the clouds, okay? So here we have our clouds abstract, all right? And we're going to make sure we save that. And now let's bring in some buttons, right? So if let's do our two mix layers, right? So this is going to recall our two mix layer presets because it's here in our preset dropdown. All right, and then our clean, right? So we can go back to a clean and our cut and fill. I could pull one of my mini cues and you'll see the color differentiation between presets and cues, right? And then furthermore, I can take like all trans, right? All transition, I can do a cut, right? And then maybe I wanna do a, not next page, but I wanna do a previous preset and a next preset, okay? And I'll just make sure I hit that save widget. Alrighty, and so now my widget is built for the front panel. I have brought in a couple of cues, right? Brought in a couple of presets and a couple of cues, and I'll save the widget. Now that we've created a widget, let's see it on an actual front panel. So we're going to take a walk for this one. We're actually going to go backstage, and we're going to take a look at our two linked Encore3 system we have here. Pull up a chair here, take a look at the widget panel, or take a look at the front panel. We're going to select the widget panel, and we're going to select widget 1, 2, 3, and we're going to hit apply to full screen. Now we'll see the last preset that was recalled was cut and fill. So we're going to go back to the clean preset. We'll let that rack up into preview, and we'll hit all trans. And we'll go with cut and fill, back to cut and fill, all trans, clean, all trans. Also, I could trigger my cue if I wanted to. I don't want to because the way I had set it up, it'd be pretty aggressively changing through the presets, but I could even go previous preset, next preset, so on and so forth down the cue list. All right, so that about wraps it up for my demonstration. I appreciate your time and thank you for allowing me to show you this, and let me pass it back to Harry.
Wow, that was amazing. So many more features that you got to see today. It's a very powerful box. Once again, a powerful box that's standalone. And of course, with linking, as you saw, it's quite easy to track what sources goes where and then make changes as you like it. So as you can see now, in the first release of Encore3, it's not a bare-bone release. It's quiet, powerful. And just to review some of the things that we have, right? So we have the more canvas, more layered than the world-renowned E2 that you are familiar and used to. We have the MultiV Viewer as a source, 4K native system that's ready to go 8K. We also have the global presets that allow you to control the Encore3 and E2 more or less with a preset recall from the latest toolset. You have the external cues and the command. Again, quite a lot of features that has been packed in within the first release, and this is just the beginning. There is more to come as we go into the future, and hopefully that's going to become better with your feedback. So to review Encore3, if you look at inside and compare to E2, Encore3 internally is built quite simply, right? So you can see that there's the two gigantic FPGAs that are there doing the embedded processing on board onto the main board. There is no separate card for it. It's all built into the one single motherboard. You still have the Gen 2 cards, the power supplies that are off the E2, and the cooling and all of this mechanism that you see is quite simplified from inside the unit when you compare with E2. And truly that's only because of two reasons, right? It's that latest technology that's available to us that's so much more powerful, and the 20 years of R&D experience that's available to Barco to enable such a product and enable such a technology to be solving a problem for you, right? So that's the Encore3 inside look. And to review the inputs and outputs, well, Encore3 is again 4K 60 native box. E2 is HD native, can go to 4K. When you compare them in 4K, E2 has the same number of 4K 60 inputs and 8 4K 60 outputs, but those outputs are not as much capable, right? It's 2 program outputs and the rest are aux, while in Encore3, every single output is fully capable. And when you use them standalone, actually Encore3 has more inputs. So in summary, Encore3 is a lot more powerful in canvas space, a lot more powerful in layers, to a point you didn't have to worry about layers anymore. There is so much more processing available. As long as you can get a source in, get the outputs to your screen, the processing is there to take care of it at the core, at the DNA that Barco stands for. So Encore3 is the box that is designed to maximize your investment. We have the best ROI in business. It is a box that you can use independently for your smaller shows, make your returns faster, combine the power of two when you need it the most, cross-rent to and from other Event Master users, contact your dry hire rental companies when you need to rent the systems that you need it for a larger show. Of course, at the same time, training the operators is at the forefront, and we have commenced the training program quite a bit long. So many operators have already been trained. Many more will be trained with our world-class training program. And at the end, we are here to ensure your long-term success with this investment. We have a very solid roadmap ahead with continuous software updates that's going to be available to you free of charge, of all the things that we have talked about so far. That's going to be available to you free of charge as we go into the future, ensuring that your total investment with Barco is fully protected. Now, let's talk about AV over IP. When it comes to AV over IP, there are 3 different protocols, 3 different formats that are discussed. We have the NDI, we have the SMPTE 2110, and IPMX. Well, NDI is built by NewTek. It is a protocol that is compressed by nature, and it works very well on 1 gig networks, does not have sync between channels. That's an issue. While 2110 is designed with the same guys who built SDI, right? So uncompressed, it does require PTP, it does require high bandwidth network switches, and it's more suitable for broadcast. Not so flexible in many sense, and IPMX is that protocol that Barco is very excited because it supports compress, uncompress. It is, and again, open standard that's widely adopted, works with PTP, works without PTP, works on high bandwidth network switches, or works on 1 gig network switches. So quite many options that are available with IPMX, and more importantly is the IPMX more or less working like an HDMI over IP. What does that mean? Well, it has the custom resolution, so custom EDIDs that it would support. HDCP, that's quite a known thing that's needed in our industry, is also supported with IPMX. So in short, IPMX is like HDMI over IP, while 2110 is like SDI over IP, and Barco is super excited about IPMX. As a first attempt to offer a product with IPMX built in, it's the I/O gateway. And so the I/O gateway, we have 3 models. We have the H25, S25, and H1. H and S stands for HDMI or SDI. 25 and 1 stands for the bandwidth. So the H25 and S25 supports uncompressed and compressed, while the H1 only supports compressed versions. These I/O gateway are transcoders. It means it could be encoder or decoder. It's a software configuration that you can have. They are powered over Ethernet or locally with a power brick. When you buy an I/O gateway from Barco, it comes with everything that you need. It comes with the needed licensing for compression. It comes with the choice of the I/O gateway that you want to have, mounting bracket, the mounting quick release plate, and a power supply that's included within the kit, so you don't have to worry about a separate power supply. Yes, it can be powered over PoE, but we also supply you a power supply separately as part of the kit in case you need it. Now, one thing that we do not supply in the kit is the optional accessory rack mounting kit. So if you need to put these units in a rack, you can fit 2 of them in a single RU, and that is sold separately. We are looking forward to show the Encore3 at the upcoming trade show, InfoComm in Orlando. It's going to be set up the same way you saw in the webinar. Come experience the system for yourself if it's a possibility. Come meet the product team. And again, if you have not registered for the show, use the Barco code that's available. It will get you a free entry into the show. So hopefully we get to see you there. Now, as we start shipping out the systems, we are hoping that you will play with it, learn the system better, and of course, you will have quite a lot of feedback that you want to provide to us. Well, write us at encore3@barco.com. We look forward to hear from you. We thank you for joining this webinar. Thank you for taking the time, and hope to see you in the future. Bye now.